So.
I sent it to them.
Bad year. I just want to put good grades. Ready for it. It's April. Got my speed down. So, yes.
Thank you. Yeah. How are you?
Doing okay, you doing all right? Right, solid meeting in order. Everyone please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Tom Graham,
Yes, sir.
Kathy Macho,
Here.
Bob Buckner here, Wendy Reed. I believe she's on Zoom. Jamie Melky,
Here.
we do have a quorum.
If there's no comments at this time, not on the agenda.
Yes. That is for anything that is not on the agenda. Right? For any item not on the agenda, just to clarify.
It's not yet, Mark. I don't, I'm sure that.
There are people on Zoom, just remember, if you have any comments, no citizens comments, time to please raise your Zoom hand.
Anyone else like to speak at this time?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Tom Graham,
Yes.
Bob Buckner.
Yes.
And Jamie Melky.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Some of the discussion items.
Discussion item A, last council meeting, which I was not at, the company requested Clerk Whitaker to provide Raymond with a summary of the events on October 30th, and also requested summaries from Mayor Graham and Councilmember Reeve. Jim Raymond was going to collect those summaries and provide a report to council. She provided that report to council. It's a privileged document. And so now it's up to the council to decide to proceed forward with that.
I think that the point of this meeting was really just to find out what happened at the meeting and find out some of the facts. So is it possible that we can just summarize the summaries that we received?
Would you like Jim Rayner to summarize those, or do you want to summarize those based on your interpretation?
I guess I was, sorry, I was thinking that perhaps the letter from the clerk and from Mayor Graham should be read out loud. That way there's no question as to the content.
Is that possible, or?
You can request or direct someone to read those. If they want to read their own letters or summaries, that might be appropriate. If they're comfortable with that. I don't want to read my voice next words.
Okay, because I would suggest that the city attorney read those two letters.
Unless you are comfortable with that.
I don't care.
Okay.
I think if Nick's prepared to read, go ahead.
I think I'm gonna preface, if I'm out of the start and read it from front to back.
You want to get him a mic.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, I was directed by council at the November 3rd council meeting to submit a summary of the October 30th meeting that included Mayor Graham, Councilperson Reeve, and previous city manager Tom Richards. I was contacted earlier that week by Mayor Graham to meet with him to discuss the steps moving forward and replacing city managers. When the meeting time arrived, previous city manager Richards and Councilperson Reeve had both arrived to join the meeting. The discussion was had about the process of replacing the city manager. I stated that the usual process included hiring an outside firm such as MML, which stands for Michigan Municipal League, to assist in the process, and Mr. Richards agreed. He gave a background of similar situations he had knowledge of and stated that this was a good path moving forward. We discussed the desired qualifications of a new city manager. Richards stated that someone with the background in electric utilities would be helpful. During the conversation, the question arose whether Sinodinowski should be terminated prior to his resignation date. Richards stated that there was likely something in his contract that would prohibit that without some financial implications to the city. The discussion turned to questions about upcoming projects and if a city manager was needed in the upcoming months and how the city could find an interim manager for the short term. We discussed the pressing matters coming up, such as the substation and the bonds, annual budget, etc. I do not recall if Mr. Richards was directly asked if he would fill the position short term, but he made it clear that he was enjoying his retirement. Conversation turned to city staff, and Reeve asked if I were to be relieved of my duties as clerk, would I potentially have time to fill the interim role? I stated that I could help out, but my workload takes up all of my time already. Reeve questioned whether Andy Potter would be capable of filling the role as clerk, stating that she thought she had recalled that one of the lawsuits would require him to be reemployed by the city if there was an outcome not favorable. Richard stated that there may be an opportunity for the city here. I said that I was not involved in a lawsuit in any way and would prefer not to discuss it. Conversation then turned just to a summarization of a path moving forward and hiring a city manager. Mayor Graham asked if I could reach out to MML to start the process. We talked about it a bit. And thought to maybe ask MML about providing a possible interim manager until a replacement was found. It was decided that starting the process by engaging MML should be a decision for the entire council at the next meeting, and the meeting concluded. To make it clear, this is my recollection of the meeting, nothing more. It is in no way meant to be a complete detailed outline of the entire meeting, which lasted almost an hour and a half. I'm sure there are parts that I missed, things that may be recalled differently by someone else. But as I swore an oath to the city upon hiring, I have honestly and in good faith given the statement to the best of my recollection.
you read my letter? I will. This is from Tom Graham. This is from Tom Graham addressed to me as city attorney.
Bring it like closer.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay. It reads. After reading that Victor had resigned, I felt I should be proactive and look at the job ahead. Having never been in this process, I wanted to learn about it and the options we have going forward. In my experience, when a person quits, you immediately look for a replacement. I called Nick Whitaker and asked if we could have a meeting to discuss what the process is. That is how the meeting got started. I was just wanting to know the normal process. At the meeting, there wasn't any business conducted, no recommendations, no formal actions taken or discussed. The meeting was about the process. I am only trying to familiarize myself with the job ahead. As being mayor, I knew I would be involved, did not know anything about how the process was. I appreciate the time. Signed by Tom Graham.
This moment, council, I'd ask if you want to discuss first among yourself or open up public comment. That's, you should decide that before you proceed.
Do we want to ask Councilperson Reeve to, if she has a statement? Since I understand she's on Zoom.
That's what I do.
Can you hear me?
Now we can-
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Would you like me to speak now?
Yeah.
Hello?
Go ahead, Wendy.
Thank you for Mayor Graham. I appreciate the opportunity to address our residents and my colleagues. Last week, after learning of the city manager's resignation, I joined the mayor, our clerk, and a former city administrator for a discussion focused on understanding the operational implications to the city of Harbor Springs of the transition to a new city administrator. No decisions were made. The purpose was limited to gathering information so that deliberations and actions could take place as they should at a duly noticed public meeting of this council. The Michigan case of St. Aubin versus Ishpeming City Council 197 Michigan Application 100 provides that informal canvassing or individual contacts below a quorum regarding personal issues within the city of Harbor Springs are permissible where no decision is made and there is no attempt to avoid the Open Meetings Act. Any suggestion that any Michigan law was violated is false. Harbor Springs is best served when we are both responsive and transparent. The Open Meetings Act exists to ensure that deliberations by a quorum occur in public. I support that principle unequivocally. I also believe that responsible public service includes asking questions, seeking expert input, and preparing for orderly transitions. My conduct has been guided by those twin commitments, preparedness and openness. Where personnel matters must be discussed, I will follow the procedures that Michigan law requires, including holding deliberations in public unless a properly convened closed session is permitted and requested, and always taking final action in public. Looking ahead, I will continue to conduct my deliberations in public, hear from my colleagues and our residents, and take any actions needed to keep city operations stable and accountable. Harbor Springs deserves calm, competent governance. I remain committed to that standard and to the transparency that our citizens rightly expect. Thank you. And regarding Mr. Whitaker's statement, his facts, as I recall them, are 100% accurate, except I do not remember that we asked him to contact the Michigan Municipal League. We are both of us aware that any decision and the ordering of a public official to do anything is a council decision. So that's the only small matter that I differ with him in. Thank you very much.
Jim, did you want to give your opinion?
Well, I'm happy to do what the council would like me to do. I could summarize, it's a council matter.
I read the opinion and I think that right now we just are looking for what happened at this meeting. I think what I was asking, when I made a motion the other day was a summary of what was discussed at the meeting. It seems that both, Mayor Graham and Wendy, you both just told us what you were doing, not what happened, what was discussed at the meeting. The only place that we got that information was from the summary from the clerk. And so I guess I have a couple of questions. I'm a little bit confused. On Monday, you seemed to say that you didn't know really anything about the Andrew Potter lawsuit. And the summary of what was discussed at the meeting shows that you have an idea, you know what could happen in one instance. And so I just want to know, have you ever discussed this lawsuit with Andrew Potter, and do you know about it or
I know of it.
not about it?
I don't know anything about it. I know it's been going on for a few years, I guess.
Is that question directed at Wendy as well?
Yeah.
Wendy, you could unmute yourself if you want.
As a personal friend of Andrew Potter, I only know about the lawsuit from Andrew Potter's end of it.
Have you discussed it with Andrew Potter since you elected for city council?
No, I have not.
Wendy, I got a follow-up question to that. I did send you, as you requested in January of this year, all the documents related to the Potter lawsuit. And you did respond to me stating that you had reviewed those documents. So I just want a clarification for the record that do you only know of the lawsuit from Mr. Potter's perspective, or also do you know it from what the courts had stated as well as the city's perspective from the closed meeting sessions?
I only know it from Andrew Potter's end of it because the court documents are quite extensive and they are well beyond my ability to understand them.
Tom, may I ask, do you have any dispute with Nick's letter?
No. More detail than what I wrote, but I think he was taking minutes, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No,
Really?
no, God, no.
Okay, you better remember.
If I could comment, I don't want to interrupt council's deliberation, but to Wendy's point, Councilperson Reeves' point about the question of the MML, it was brought up to me direct to MML, but in an open meeting, so maybe I didn't clarify that quite right. They didn't direct me, they just said, we'll bring it up at the meeting. And then direct me, I guess, in open session. Thank you.
You have one follow-up question to both the mayor and Councilmember Reed. And my line of question is only coming from the lawsuit perspective because that's mine and Jim's responsibility to keep the city in the best position for the lawsuit. And obviously, former city manager Tom Richards has provided a statement in support of Andrew Potter in that lawsuit. So who came in contact with Tom Richards to join you guys at this meeting, and when did that happen? How long has that contact been going on? Because from my understanding, someone had to have contacted Tom Richards to join the meeting.
Am I still unmuted?
Yes, you can carry.
I am the person who contacted Tom Richards as the former city manager. I was interested in his input as to how we go about an interim procedure and how we go about finding a new city manager. Any suggestions that he would offer in that. So I have spoken to Tom Richards 4 times in my entire life, and that 4th time occurred last Tuesday, I believe it was.
Has anyone else at this table ever reached out to Tom Richards to ask for advice on what's going on in the city? I haven't.
I have not, he contacted me before I was on council when I was running. But other than that, I have had no conversation with Mr. Richards.
Likewise.
I haven't had any contact with him. I've known him as he was city manager for 5 or 10 years. We all worked with him. Spirit. And a good man, I think.
My biggest concern that I'm hearing so far is that I'm not sure. I question whether perhaps the wisdom of bringing Mr. Richards to a meeting where he was not expected by the city staff. And despite his long record at the city, I just have concerns that he would be brought into this by part of the council without discussion with the rest of the council. I just don't understand how that is wise.
Maybe it wasn't my job, but when he was looking for some experience, he had some, and he was known by all. When he was looking for some experience, and Tom obviously had some, she asked if she could invite him, and I said, fine with me. We all know him.
I feel like the point of meeting with Clerk Whitaker would have been to have somebody with experience. I don't understand why somebody that is a private citizen should have been at a meeting where you are asking questions about the process and clearly discussing, what if we did this? What if we did this? I understand, and I'm not accusing anybody of making any decisions at this meeting, but it is clear that it wasn't just questions and fact finding. There were a lot of questions of, can we do this? Can we do that? And I think that my concern, and I feel very betrayed because I feel like I should have been a part of that conversation. And I know that, again, I said it the other day, you could have called a special meeting if it was that urgent that the whole council discuss it. But to meet with just 2 of you, a private citizen and the clerk, just doesn't seem right to me.
Seemed right to me. We were well intended, didn't do anything wrong that I can see.
There's no concern to you that you discussed a lawsuit with somebody who's a witness in the lawsuit?
I don't remember discussing the lawsuit. I think it was brought up. We talked about, yeah, probably, yeah. And find somebody from within or you find somebody from without the area. And a temporary manager probably, and permanent one somewhere along the line.
But there was discussion, if I'm understanding that, asked the clerk if he would be able to leave his role and participate and fill the interim role. Isn't that a kind of a personnel decision? And is that really a part of council responsibility? Or is that city manager responsibility?
Somebody's.
So my sense is that sitting down with Nick to have a conversation and find out more information. That might not be 100% kosher, but I don't see a big issue with that, to be honest. Tom, and I don't have any issue with that at all. I think what I'm hearing from the community is it's the whole issue of Tom Richards and specifically Potter being considered as a possible replacement for Nick if Nick were to become the temporary city manager. And you know, maybe Mr. Potter is a great guy, but the fact that there's litigation right now between Mr. Potter and the city, I think it could relate to the city's litigation strategy. You know, I mean, it just seems inappropriate to me. Perhaps I'm just naive.
Jim, could you clarify, in the past, when a city manager resigns, who makes the decision on the next steps? Is it something that the current city manager coordinates? Is it something discussing it with council? Is it something that you've discussed with council? Who leads that conversation in the past?
Well, it's definitely a council decision, and it's normally the mayor who leads that. Now, obviously, every council, there are changes over time, and there's always questions about what's the best way to proceed. But it's clear that it's a council decision. Input is provided by the city clerk, by the outgoing city manager, in the right case, by me in some cases, talking about the experience that we've had with other organizations and people serving on as a search committee. And but everyone recognizes that it is the council that makes that decision.
If I could just step off a little bit on what Buckner said about meeting with Tom. I think it was brought up last meeting that in the charter, it states that council's discussions should be directed through the city manager to city staff. Okay, I agree with that. That's in there. However, in the last 20 years, I've met probably with 99.9% of every mayor and city council member individually, just for questions. So maybe I will not be able to do that anymore.
I think a clarification there, from just interpretation of charter perspective is the charter clearly states that a council member can inquire for city staff, that can discuss with city staff for inquiry purposes. So they can inquire with staff. However, I think the intent of that passage is that they're inquiring with that staff member about their specific job functions and not functions related to other staff members. So it wouldn't make sense for a council member to ask Chief Knight about the say of the water system, the sewer system, try to get questions when that should go to the department, the public works director. So my only concern is that section, Clerk Whitaker is, he can tell you about elections, he can tell you about the budget, he can tell you about the treasury stuff, but why he would be one to be involved in asking questions about city manager hiring process is beyond me, especially when I was in town and, the entire council knew my last day was December 16th. So an email or call to me could have been appropriate. As Mayor Tom Graham knows, we have received emails from 2 different search companies already asking to, be part of the process. So, I'm still CC'd on those emails. So usually to answer the question about who coordinates the search process, council usually decides that as a whole. Usually it's a city manager or a search committee that coordinates that until the council has a direction and a search consultant. So.
I hear you. Notwithstanding though, I still think that's a very, very forgivable offense, just sitting down and having a conversation with the city clerk. It's the other issue that really troubles me.
I have a concern, just from a perspective of, I submitted my resignation, date is well known to council and to the community. And from my understanding, someone brought up that, the city manager should be terminated before his resignation date, or asked if he should be terminated. Which, I don't see that point because it's physically irresponsible for the city to terminate someone that's already putting their resignation in, and then the city would be facing a big payout. So I just find that a little concerning. And I don't understand the reasoning for why wanting to terminate someone who's offered their resignation. I think that was also inappropriate.
I don't think it's, this is Wendy. I don't think it's inappropriate that citizens contact me and ask me questions, and the questions that they ask are, they're thinking outside the box. And one of the questions was, do we need a city manager? And the answer to that was yes, as we discussed. The other question was, do we need a full-time city manager? And the answer to that was also yes. But if citizens contact me and ask me questions, I'm duty bound to ask the question and get an answer for them. So one of the questions I'm being asked is, why are we keeping a city manager who's resigned? And I'm happy to tell you that in the discussion, it was pointed out to us that we have to pay him through December 16th. So it would be fiscally irresponsible to remove him. But I am duty bound to ask the questions the city citizens ask me. And in looking at the city charter, 4.6 item 2 says, except for purposes of inquiry, the council and its members in administrative matters shall deal solely with the manager. This was an inquiry. So I interpret that to mean that I'm open to ask anybody for any input, and that's what I intend to do. I don't think there's anything wrong in asking input from other people when the charter says explicitly that I can do so.
I think potentially there's a different understanding about what the council is allowed, who they're allowed to talk to, or who they're allowed to ask questions of, and it is addressed in the charter, maybe not always as clearly as we might like. But I don't consider it my role to ask any city employee any question. I feel like they have jobs to do, and I don't like to take up their time unless it's necessary. I find, although Victor may find all my phone calls somewhat time consuming, I call when I have a question about issues with the city. I specifically contact him first, unless it is primarily budgetary and or financially related, then I'll talk to Nick. But I was informed, and I can't say whether it was at the MML training or whether it was conversation with previous people on the city council, that our roles were advisory and policy making, and not to be involved in the operations day to day. And so I think we get into a fine line here of what's day-to-day operations and what's council's policy making role.
Other comments from the board?
I also guess, I mean, I guess I'm the senior person on this council right now. And so I've been through a couple of budget seasons, but it was very clear to me, and I could have answered the question if somebody would have asked me why we didn't just get rid of Victor now, that he is a very important part of the upcoming 2 months where we are doing a capital improvement plan. We are going through every budget line item. We are approving a budget. And so I would have been able to answer that it wouldn't have been wise to get rid of the city manager and leave other city staff scrambling to get everything done on their own. If we don't, I believe, approve of all of those things, it could violate the charter in another way. Our responsibility to pass the budget.
I'd like to say that seems to me that the intent of that section is to draw a line between administrative and the policy section. And I think there was, in my opinion, based on hearing the events, that there was some sort of attempt to avoid dealing with me at all costs. And Councilmember Reeve very rarely ever reaches out to me. So, I mean, it would have made more sense to reach out to me before reaching out to Clerk Whitaker on this issue. So I think there was an intent to avoid dealing directly with me. And that's been probably noticeable throughout the whole year for a couple of you. So I think, while there might not have been a specific violation, a specific sentence in that, it does state the intent. And I think the appropriate avenue is to deal with the city manager, even if you don't like the city manager. And that's just the way it is. I am the city manager, and that's for now until December 16th, and that's who council should be dealing with directly on issues that relate to administration. That's just, it's good practice, and it's also in the charter. That's the intent of that section. Doesn't mean you can't inquire with other people, but the intent is pretty clear.
There was no effort to exclude you. I assumed you were out of town. Reading the newspaper, you quit.
Mayor, respectfully, my email to you, the subject headline said, notice last day, December 16th. And so you must have read the email, and the article of Harbor Light said December, December's last day. So I mean, you could have called me.
Do we want to hear public comment?
I think Wendy wanted to make a comment. I sent a text.
All right, Wendy, you can go. Unmute yourself.
Yes, I've been trying to communicate, but you have set it up so that I can't unmute myself. So I can't participate as long as you do that. And while I agree that there's many things in the charter that need to be addressed and rewritten, it's quite clear, 4.6, item 2, except for purposes of inquiry, it's very clear. And this was an inquiry. We can address questions to anyone we want. You can't tell the citizens in the town that they can't tell us, their elected representatives, their thoughts. And then we, unless we want to muzzle the citizens, have to ask the question ourselves.
I apologize, I don't see how this relates at all to the communications between the citizens and the council. This is specifically talking about communications between the council members and the city staff and what's appropriate. So I've certainly never, if any questions I get from citizens, I answer as honestly as I can, and if I don't have the information, I seek it out from the appropriate person at City Hall. And typically that's the city manager, but if it's a simple question relating to a process at DPW, I might call Lucas, but I'm, I don't have, it doesn't concern me at all that citizens can't express what their questions are. And the citizens can call the city manager, city hall anytime and ask a question as well.
I think Wendy, you do make a good point, but there's also more to that section than that. And that section, the last sentence says, I'll just read it. It is not the intention of this provision to prevent frank discussion of the business of the city between the manager and any member of the council at any time, but to prevent the personal favoritism or prejudice of any member of the council from hampering the administration of city under the plan set forth in this section. So to me, that the intent is pretty clear that, the frank discussion should happen between the council or individual council members and city manager. And the intent is to steer the council away from personal favoritism and prejudice. And, what comes to mind is, personal favoritism and who should be in what role and how we should go about doing a city manager selection process, and how that should be coordinated. Section also in 4.6 says, in order to secure the efficiency of city government insofar as possible under this plan and to prevent embarrassment of the city manager and his administrative duties, these rules shall be obeyed. So I get it, there's probably no specific violation, but there's clearly an intent here. And it seems to me that there has been some sort of intent to avoid dealing directly with the city manager on many issues, but this being one issue. And the frank business and communication should happen between the council member and the city manager. That's where it should happen. And I am not muting you, it just, I don't, the way we have Zoom set up, Wendy, is that if you don't speak for a while, it goes automatically to you. So if you want to unmute yourself, just raise your hand and I'll call it.
You like to hear public comment?
I think that'd be appropriate.
I'm Gail Brown, 251 East Main Street. I just, on the meeting that was held with Tom Richards, and I think according to Nick, this is what happened, was the discussion of whether you could terminate Victor. Was that discussion done with Tom Richards in the room?
I believe it was, we were all there together.
So that's not an inquiry. I understand if you don't understand procedure or policy, going to someone and asking questions. But what could Tom Richards bring to that discussion? He has not been a city manager for many years, and he's involved in a lawsuit. And that is really a sticking point for me. Thank you.
Mr. Keep another half hour.
Yeah. Glad to have an app.
3 minutes.
Harbor Springs City Council. Oh, Mark Rondell, 181 Zoll. Harbor Springs City Council, I'm very disturbed by the recent events perpetrated by 2 of your members. I, like many others, am greatly saddened by the loss of our current city manager, Victor Sinadnowski. One of the main hallmarks of his service to this city has been his complete commitment to honesty and transparency. Transparency in particular has been a cornerstone of many complaints lodged against the city over the past couple of years by groups claiming to love Harbor Springs. Yet manager Sinadnowski has gone well above and beyond to lay bare all reasoning and discussion about the policies of the town. On Thursday, October 30th, 2025, only hours after manager Sinadnowski made public his resignation, Mayor Graham and Councilperson Reeve invited former city manager Tom Richards to meet with the city clerk, Nick Whitaker, in a private closed-door discussion. This situation is a throwback to the many years that city policies were formulated in the dark by a few members of the good old boys. And your comment, Victor, about the need to avoid personal favoritism and prejudice is very appropriate here. The content and ramifications of these discussions are slowly becoming known. But the simple fact that this meeting took place at the instigation of these members of our city council has shattered trust, spit upon the principles of transparency and openness, and served to exacerbate the divisiveness that we claim we want to heal in our community. The council meeting of Monday, November 3rd, 2025 illuminated other shortcomings of these council members, and today also. Mayor Graham's answers as to why he called the meeting show either his total lack of understanding or his willful disdain for the principles of open and transparent government. Ms. Reeves' suggestion that perhaps she doesn't feel the need to read all of the background information provided her shows her lack of commitment to the responsibilities of her position. These two are not good public servants. Harbor Springs deserves better. I am shocked and offended by these actions of our council members. To borrow a phrase, enough is enough. Therefore, I ask as a registered voter, full-year resident, property owner, taxpayer, and longtime stakeholding citizen, that the City Council of Harbor Springs formally censure Mayor Graham and Councilperson Reeve with a voted motion. Furthermore, I ask that you make a second motion that the council requests, both for the benefit of the city and for the individual's personal benefits, that they consider voluntarily resigning their positions on the city council. Thank you.
Okay. Maggie Lacy, 315 East 3rd Street. I listened to the last meeting. I also listened to what Nick wrote, Tom wrote, what people said. And, you know, I see the underlying about prior release. You know, when I was in upper management with several different companies, if someone turned in their resignation, it was often a question that you'd ask yourself. And that question would be, what is the individual going to be like going forward? What are the options? What do we have to do, risk and reward? So, you know, also, you know, I'm sorry that you're leaving. Colorado is a wonderful place, and, you know, Breckenridge is lovely, but I'm sure they're going to have their issues as well. You know, we are a divided town, and every place across the country right now seems like everything's divided. And what we need to do is roll our sleeves and try to come up as a community. So even when I heard that Victor was leaving, I had some of the same concerns, and I went down a checklist. I'm sure many people did, because we are at a pivotal spot right now. We had budget, and keep in mind, the state, our state didn't pass the budget on time either. So if we had to push our budget down the road, that's not going to break us. You know, we have to come up with solutions. You know, we let Saginaw not have an election, a special election. So the state's not perfect either.
To address city
The
council.
state's not perfect, and so our town is not perfect. Life is messy. But some of the same things were asked. It was obviously the optics were not great, so that probably shouldn't have been done. But to ask Tom Richards, I've called Tom Richards several times to ask him questions. I want to balance what happened then, what happened now, what's going great, what can we do better? There's nothing wrong with that. Nick was an interim city manager before. I remember that well. That was not wrong to be asking him some of these questions. And Jamie, you know, you do have experience. You've been doing a great job, but you cannot put in the emotions of I feel and everything else. This is a business. He's still a manager, the city mayor. He still has to be running it. Wendy's still a city council person, still has to be running it. We were into election. It was a bad timing, absolutely. But I just want peace right now. I want infrastructure. I want us to be working together. I think that we have done some of these things through planning. Our voices be heard. We're getting better on communicating things. But to go down the road and talk about intent, it's irrelevant now, okay? We need to find the right person for the position. And finding the right person, you need to be asking, what do we need to find the right person for city manager? So to ask Nick these questions is not wrong because he had that position before. And for the mayor to do this, that's his role. He is supposed to be leading this town. So I'm just wanting to say, stop. Okay, it was wrong, it was bad optics, but to go down the road to make a vote, which we can't do, they didn't do anything wrong. It was inquisitive. So for all of us to get in an uproar, the town's full, right? The coffee shop's buzzing. It's crazy. There's other things and more important things that we should be worried about besides this right now. Andy Potter, the only thing that we need to understand, and I question myself, this has been going on for a very long time. And the reason why it's moving up, because he was a veteran. And as a veteran, if he loses the case, or if we lose the case, the city loses the case, you have to give them some options. What are those options? And I don't think you are only hearing it from a few people. Do we know all this information? We are in a very vulnerable situation, in my belief. And so that probably shouldn't have been discussed, you know, but it is something weighing over the city that should be understanding where we are with that. So with city council, I think you all should understand where we are with that lawsuit. Because every time I ask about it or try to get understanding how much money we've been spending on this case, nobody wants to give me that information.
Nick, how much money have we been spending on this case?
That appropriate for you to respond? And very little, it's covered by Michigan Municipal.
My concern about, and I don't usually like to address public comment, but my concern about this meeting that was held was not only that the resignation happened on Tuesday. They held this meeting on Thursday. Earlier in the month, on I think October 7th, they were asked to fill out a capital improvement project ranking. That is an important thing that needs to be done so that we can move forward with the budget. Neither of them returned that on time, but they had time to schedule this emergency meeting. And again, I said this last time, this is a council that wasn't even put together yet. We had to wait for the election to happen before we can even discuss the process of hiring a city manager, discuss the qualifications of what we want as a city manager. And so that is my concern, is that they're failing to do other tasks that are just as important, and they're choosing what they want to do and when they want to do it.
But that is your right to choose what is important for you.
Just like to add that I've stayed through the end of budget season purposely. That's why I put my last day after the final budget meeting, so we could go through this budget season successfully. And yes, the Michigan Municipal League is covering the lawsuit, and yes, there are different opinions from the plaintiff on the lawsuit, but the council members should be representing the best interests of the city and listening to our city attorneys and our attorneys hired on how to proceed with litigating and strategizing. If no member on council has not authorized any member of city council, only has authorized city attorney and city manager to proceed on coordinating and dealing with that lawsuit. So this idea that we have council members looking to strategize and figure out how to solve this case outside of a council meeting and outside of the knowledge of the city attorney or city manager is one to me, and could jeopardize our situation in that case.
Bob Thoma, 501 Pepper Street. Okay, I'm gonna do a brief synopsis. For the most part, you guys have been doing a good job. A couple of you got a little close to the line. Now you know, don't get close to the line again. Done. Now can we get back to governing this wonderful city and put the BS aside?
Anybody else?
Mary Thompson, 970 Traverse Street. My question is, and I don't know if I can ask you guys a question or if there's gonna be a comment. I want to know why, if you had that meeting and the gentleman that is supposed to be having a lawsuit against the city of Harbor, which affects me also because I pay taxes. I want to know why you would even think of offering position so that you can avoid a lawsuit when he's probably going to win because you jeopardized it by even bringing that up at that meeting. That's what I feel.
About 638 West Gulf Drive. Councilperson Reeves, have you ever met in your role as a city council member with the city manager? Are you there?
She is, but do you want to wait till after the comments, maybe perhaps?
No, this is part of it.
When you unmuted yourself?
Well, yes, and who is running the Zoom? Because 27 people are on this and we have been muted the entire time. I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to speak and I can't participate because you blocked me as well as all of them. And
No one has been blocked. No one has been blocked from speaking on Zoom. This is a process we always follow, that everyone is muted upon entry. And if you'd like to speak, you raise your hand. But
no,
only
you
have-
can't. The box that you get says the host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves. No one on Zoom can participate. There's 27 people there. I'm sure they're all as frustrated as I am.
I'm gonna take that as a no. Section 4.6.2 also says that the council and its members shall not make recommendations of a specific person for a city contract. I'm assuming you did not understand that. Councilperson Reeves, I feel that you are not taking your elected position on the city council seriously. This is not a board or commission post where you could maybe make decisions by your gut and get away with it. The city council deals with budgets, our money. They deal with large-scale projects, substation, infrastructure needs, and projects and policies which affect all of us and are necessary for the operation of the city government. Between missing sewer commission meetings, calling tree board members an offensive name, choosing not to read material which is pertinent and necessary for your role on city council, and having meetings with city staff which bypass the city manager, which included a witness in a lawsuit against the city, leads me to believe you are not fit for the city council position. As Mark said, we deserve better.
Anyone else at this time? Go ahead. Skip.
Okay, that's our, yeah, come on, wait a minute. Whatever, so 4 Beach Drive. You know, I must live under a rock or something because I didn't know any of this was happening until a couple of days ago. And, you know, my issue with it is that, was the actions, were they inappropriate? Yes. Careless? Yes. Stupid? Yes. But was there any harm? No, not in my view. So, you know, when we think about the city going forward, we've got to stop the divisive and the destructive witch hunts that the city does. And, you know, so what are the consequences of being known for being divisive and having witch hunts? Well, for example, we need to hire a city manager. And we want to have a great, you know, Harbor Springs city manager should be a plum job. We want to have a great pool of candidates. Who wants to work for a city that is so divisive and does witch hunts? Secondly, we're about to enter the municipal bond market to raise money for our electric substation. One of the criteria from a ratings agency is there government stability? No. And so, you know, What's that gonna cost the city? Will we still be able to issue the bonds? Yes. But, you know, will it affect the pricing? Absolutely. So let's stop this nonsense and move on. Thanks.
Mark Geisinger, Summit Street, 462. I was here when Tom Richards was hired. They went through the process of getting 3 candidates. Then they interviewed them in this room and it was open to the public, and there were very few people that attended the meeting back then. It was Fred Guter was retiring and Tom Richards got the job out of the 3 candidates, and it was, like I say, they just interviewed him and they had meetings and he was hired. So it was, I think the Michigan Municipal League came up with the 3 candidates, and then they all appeared here at different times. It went pretty smooth.
Anyone else at this time?
We also have a hand on Zoom afterwards.
Sorry, I've been kind of writing this as I've been going here. Cora Smith, Wait, 4560 High Neck Road, Harbor Springs, but also 108 East 3rd Street, own a business downtown. In my role on the DDA as vice chair, I always look at all my actions, words, and meetings under a microscope, including asking what's appropriate of my DDA director, sometimes Victor, asking if it's appropriate to respond to certain things or have meetings with certain people and how to do so, because I know that that's really important. It appears that Councilwoman Reeve lied about having no knowledge about the lawsuit, yet it seems like she brought it up during the meeting and it was discussed during the meeting. Regardless of anything else, does this community want a city council member who lies to its fellow members and the public while in a meeting? Is it appropriate for the city council, someone from the city council, to be in contact with someone who is part of an ongoing lawsuit? It sounds like it's quite impossible that Councilwoman Reeve did not know that he was part of the lawsuit, especially for how much she likes quoting each section of every bylaw for each board, including the charter in this meeting. I also find it inappropriate that she responded to the other summaries opposed to submitting her own summary. This is the same woman who called the tree board, we all know what it was, with no repercussions. I'm asking for council to take action. If you keep letting her get away with inappropriate actions, they will get worse and continue. I wish the new council luck in finding a new city manager after the public bashing that has occurred. I hope that all the people who wish Victor gone will come and speak up in the hiring process. I can't imagine you'll find someone with that much patience that has dealt with what he has put up with for the past 7 years. Good luck.
There we have Maureen Kenny on Zoom.
Hi, Maureen Kenny, 134 West Bay Street. Mr. Raymer, can you answer 2 questions with a yes or no? Number 1, has there been a violation of OMA?
Of a what?
OMA.
No, I do not believe there was a violation of the open.
Okay, thank you. Second question, has there been a violation of the city charter?
I've given my opinion on that to the council, and it's in their hands right now. I'm not going to discuss it publicly unless they want me to.
Well, I think that's appropriate, and maybe if we find both answers are no, as people have said, it's time to move on and find another city manager in the appropriate manner. So I would hope that city council could share your response.
No problem.
I read his response. I don't know that we need to discuss it any further. I think if you want to make a motion, we can do a roll call vote.
Don't need to make a motion. Either of you guys think you do?
No. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what.
I think he wants to know if we want to share, and I said if he wants to make a motion, he can.
Yeah, I see here you have an opinion.
I have a couple of comments I'd like to make in the context of some of the public comments. And one is this issue of divisiveness. The divisiveness is terrible, but having secret meetings doesn't help. No. And the the hope that there has been no harm as a result of this meeting. We don't know that. I mean, we really don't. I don't know whether or not there was anything revealed at the meeting that could potentially be beneficial or get back to Mr. Potter. That scares the hell out of me. So those are my thoughts on what I've heard so far.
I'd like to comment on the, whoever come up with a secret meeting. I held an interim in the middle of the day. There's gonna be a secret meeting. I could have done it in my office. This was not a secret meeting. Very public, the doors are open. Your city staff heard what they wanted to hear if they wanted to. So it wasn't secret. Wasn't posted, if that's the other word.
I will also address some of what was said during public comment. I understand that this is something that shouldn't have happened, but it did. And I know that I also agree that we should move on. But I also feel that there is a lot of mistrust as to what is going on right now. I am focused on what the future holds. I'm focused on the capital improvement projects. I'm focused on the budget. And as soon as the new council is sworn in, I will be focused on talking about the process for finding a city manager. I think that we need to focus on each of these tasks individually, and jumping the gun to only focus on what you think is necessary is not doing what's in best interest of the city. So yes, we do need to get past this divisiveness. We do need to figure out how to work together. But being told for the last year and a half while I sat at this table that the city and the city manager and other people in this community are not being transparent, and then questioning what happened at this meeting just seems like it was my job. When a meeting happened, everyone wanted to know. It was my job to ask what happened at that meeting. So that is how I think that we can move forward, is we found out what happened at the meeting, and now we can all hopefully do our jobs and focus on what's important.
Anybody else on Zoom or anybody else here like to talk?
I need to think for a minute. I understand the mayor's concern about using the word secret, and perhaps that is overstating. However, it was clearly not planned in the way that it came about. It was going to be a meeting between the mayor and the city clerk. And apparently had two more people were added, and topics that I don't believe the city clerk would have could have anticipated were being asked. And I think that put the clerk in a very bad position. And that concerns me a lot, because are we pitting different employees against each other? That's not the role of the council. So I'm concerned about the position that he was put in, and that topics were discussed that may not have been appropriate. I quite possibly know there may not be a violation of the charter. Nevertheless, it was inappropriate, I believe.
I'll just add before deciding to move on. I obviously my last day here is December 16th, and the lawsuit will likely continue beyond that. Ms. Councilmember Reeve stated she is friends with the plaintiff, Mr. Potter. I just think the council needs to seriously consider that going forward when we are discussing this case, whether in closed session or open session, making decisions about how to go forward. Because we don't want any, we don't even want the sense or optics of any sort of impropriety to be the case. So I think that should be something to take into consideration. I'm not saying that there is, just the optics, obviously with this meeting, even if there may have not been anything in violation of the law, the optics clearly are bad, so I think we should think about that going forward.
141 Snyder Street. I still struggle with this concept that people aren't concerned that Tom Richards, who is a witness in a lawsuit that has been going on, I believe, about 4 years. And then Councilwoman Reeve indicates that she did not read the documents that Victor provided for her with respect to the lawsuit, but instead got her information from her personal friend, Andy Potter. And then neither Tom nor Wendy disclosed in their summaries the fact that Nick disclosed that Andy Potter's name came up as a possible interim city clerk is, I find it very troublesome, and I've lost complete faith in both the mayor and council person as far as transparency goes.
Thank you.
Hang on,
Yes.
Becky Backus, 500 West Summit. In my corporate world, when somebody submitted a resignation letter, they were escorted out the door because they could possibly take secrets.
Mhm.
Turned in your laptop, you turned in your phone, and you were done. Doesn't mean that it's proper in this situation, but that's the corporate world. Number two, if the mayor and Wendy called Nick and said, let's get together and we have some questions. If it was inappropriate, Nick could have said, no, I can't do that. It's not appropriate. And evidently, Nick decided that it was just simple conversations between Wendy and Tom, who are new to this board. And no big deal. Like you say, Nick could have said, sorry, it violates whatever charters, whatever rules, whatever. Tom Richard.
Thank you.
Nick, if I'm correct, clarification, you didn't have knowledge that Councilmember Reeve or Tom Richards was gonna be at that meeting, correct?
Right,
So.
but there was still no violation of the meetings act. so-
Correct, but you had no idea, so you were just expecting to meet with Mayor Graham.
But after it started,
So-
he could have said, sorry.
And I can tell you that Nick and I discussed, we had concerns about the optics of the meeting before we went into it. And I won't speak for Nick, but ultimately it was decided, two of these people are his bosses. And what position has he been put in now too, where two of them come in with a former city manager to discuss something. And he's been put in this situation where should he meet with him or should he not meet with him? It's hard.
Pam Torchinsky.
You can lower it. Because.
Pam Torchinsky, 5 State Street. I think Victor's done a great job. He has handled really difficult problems, extremely emotional citizens. And the suggestion that he would act like a short timer and do us in, do us bad, do us dirty is obscene. We don't have anything to steal. What is he gonna steal? The budget for planting trees, the budget for building a new sewer system, the budget for building that street. There's nothing to steal. Everything is supposed to be public. It's supposed to be transparent. I can go in and ask him. I can go over to Kathy and ask her, what are we spending money on? Nobody's hiding. I trust Victor because I've seen him work to not be a short timer, to be an employee who does his damn best for this town until the minute that he doesn't work here anymore. So I think people should respect him because he has respected us. And I don't think you should accuse him of things that are just not gonna happen.
You know, anyone else? speak at this time?
How about a motion of censure?
Not your call, sir.
I'm asking my counsel.
How about let's just put this to bed and get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start with a motion of censure.
Oh, slap on the wrist.
Start with a motion and a request to voluntarily leave the positions.
Move on.
Let it just keep getting worse. Slap on the wrist, doesn't do anything.
Well,
Or discussion, let's move on to 3B then.
One more hand.
And one more hand popped up if you want to take a comment.
Sure, I'll take it. That's the hand.
No, it's on Zoom. Rhonda.
Hello, this is Rhonda Trozak, 127 East Bay Street. And like the other lady who spoke, I've worked in corporate America for a number of years. When someone leaves, it's quite often that they're immediately asked to pack up their things and go. It has to do with a number of different reasons, for confidentiality, to not any bad feelings or anyone being hurt. It has to do with confidentiality and the fact that someone has resigned. I agree that this is a completely different scenario, given that Victor's been a partner at the city for a long time. But I think that personally, the idea that anyone should be censored for a meeting held at City Hall with an employee, that, or having anyone imply that that's a secret meeting when it's happened at City Hall, is absolutely got a hidden agenda. So there's no reason for censure or apology. This is completely rational in the fact that somebody has surprisingly resigned, and what do we do? And I thank you all for your time and your patience, and I appreciate the efforts everyone's going through, but I do agree with the folks who are saying, let's move on.
Linda Rockwitz, 519 East Third Street. This meeting has been very interesting. I've attended all of the meetings from the planning commission since January. And the people who were opposed a lot of times at those meetings, we've switched roles now. The people who are applauding one person were booing, or not literally, but were opposed to the former position. So I think, like so many have said, we've reached the position. We're not going to censure Tom and Wendy. We're not going to, go any further with this. Let's wish Victor well and do our best to come back together.
This is for Victor. I left a job a couple years ago before I retired, and I gave him a year's notice. I didn't take any secrets.
Anyone else, or we'll move on? Discussion item B.
Yeah, discussion item B. Do you want, all right, acceptance of city manager's resignation. I emailed my resignation to council on Tuesday, October 27th or 8th, I believe, 28th. Of course, in advance, I knew I couldn't be at that Monday's meeting, so I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to mislead council and the public, when I already knew I had something else lined up. So that's why I submitted it beforehand. My contract was renewed in 2021 for 5 years to end on May 1st. So I'm asking council officially accept my resignation to end December 16th. That's about 48 days notice. There is a clause for 60 days, but there's no consequence to this city manager not doing this. It's more to help to ensure that you have some transition in between for me leaving an interim city manager. So I ask that you officially accept the December 16th is my last day. I really want to get through the budget season, so you have, and hopefully the bonding process and the substation process, as well as a couple other projects we have that hopefully will end up in December. So just asking for that official acceptance. So I'm planning on leaving December 16th.
Good luck.
I move that we accept that as the last date.
I second.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Tom Graham,
Yes.
Bob Buckner,
Yes.
Jamie Milky.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Any other businesses will be adjourned?